This is a topic for Flex Funds, and I'm going to pass things off to Talk.
Yeah, we're showing up here with the slide deck, Sean, as I said, because it's, this topic is complicated. So as many visuals we can offer, the better, I hope. So yeah, good morning, everybody. My name is Talk Sonole Gillespie, and my pronouns are she, her, and sow. I am the Director of Community Health at HealthShare, and I'm here with a whole tribe. HealthShare never shows up alone. So go ahead, Alyssa and Stacy, and we've got, I think, Nancy and Allie on the call too.
Hi, folks. My name is Alyssa Craigie. I'm the Director of Health System Integration at HealthShare, and my pronouns are she and her. It's good to be here today.
Good morning. I'm Stacy DeLeon Davis with HealthShare, she, her, AI pronouns, and I'm the Community Engagement Program Manager.
This is Nancy Thompson. I am also with HealthShare, and I am a she, her, and I am on the team with Talk and Stacy.
Hi, my name is Allie Birch. I use she, her, hers pronouns, and I work with HealthShare and closely with Nancy and the rest of the team.
All right. Can you give me permissions to share screen? I can't hear you, Sean.
Sean, you're muted.
No worries. I was just saying I was making you co-host, so you should be all set.
Okay, we're going to try it. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Did it work? Oh, yeah. Okay. For those who've seen this slide before, we're just going to keep bringing it back, right? Because it's really helpful to see it over and over until you say, okay, Talk, we got it. We totally understand what you're talking about. And really want this to be a discussion. So plug in the chat with your questions, comments, turn on your camera if you can, ask questions. We really want this to be a dialogue. All right. So just to back things up, do a little bit of rewind. HealthShare is a coordinated care organization, and our model is a little different from Trillium's. We have a network of health plan partners, which is OHSU, Legacy Health, Pacific Source, Kaiser, Providence, and Care Oregon, right? It's really hard because I can't see folks' faces. Don't you love this slide, Sean? I show this all the time.
I love this slide. This is my favorite slide. I just took a screenshot on my phone because I actually need this visual sometimes, and I love it.
Thanks,
Actually,
Deanna.
I wake up every morning and I take a look at this slide every day, and I'm like, you know what? Yay, yay.
I should plaster it on my forehead wherever I go. But yeah, no, like on the real though, it's complicated, right? So we are a network of providers. All right, so before we talk about health related services, I think it's important to understand that Medicaid OHP covers physical health, behavioral health, and dental, right? So those are things that are covered under Medicaid in terms of benefits. So I'm just going to show this slide. So on the back of the HealthShare card, you'll see that each person is assigned to a physical health plan. So it's one of those 5. And then they're also assigned to a primary care provider. And that number can be found right there on the back of the card. So, but what are some of the things that Medicaid covers in terms of physical health, right? So it's these things. Transgender services, oftentimes I call that out because people are like, wait, I didn't know that. So just, some of the benefits around transgender services. But here's where I want to focus today is durable medical equipment. So in my experience in being out in community and even here at the collaborative, right, we get asked, can health related services cover wheelchairs, right? Or crutches or humidifiers? And I'm like, actually, those are already items that can be covered under Medicaid. So that wouldn't fit under health related services. So for example, again, here are just some of the items that are covered under Medicaid. And those who know me know that I'm a fan of animation and pictures. So bear with me. Any questions so far as I'm clicking away? These are things that the provider, those who know me know I don't use fancy language. There's no need to do that, particularly when we're talking about healthcare, right? So I won't use the fancy word, but when a doctor writes a script, they write the request and order these items.
think
Diabetic cues. Mhm.
the only thing I was going to ask, because I know sometimes it can be difficult to remember that these things are covered. Are there, is there like an easy to like refer to list of durable medical equipment so folks don't get that confused with, you know, the difference between durable medical equipment versus like a flex fund kind of purchase?
I wish there were. Maybe there are. I'm looking to Alyssa, but I guess my response to that is it really shouldn't be on the members to understand. And it even shouldn't be on assisters or community health workers to understand. This is really where our providers, right, and their care team is knowledgeable about this. We should have to think about these things. They actually have a manual that they follow, right? But yes, to your point, there should be something. Alyssa, do you know if there's something? Because there's so many, there's like thousands of items that are covered under Medicaid.
That's true.
Yeah, I don't have one at the tip of my fingers, but I do think that such lists exist. So we can see if we can track that down for you.
Yeah. Because I just know sometimes we even get questions about folks like, is this particular procedure covered? And I know that that's necessarily something that should go back to a CCO or go back to the provider itself. But sometimes it can be helpful just to do a quick like control F on a long list and be like, oh, it is, or, you know.
But you bring up a good point. It's you, those who've heard me talk about this, I'm like a broken record, right? Is call your health plan and ask. Call that customer service. They'll be able to let you know. But it's like, wait, I have to call them every single time? No. And it's how do we hold our providers accountable too? Saying, I don't know, can you look this up? I mean, I have confidence a little bit now because I work inside the health system. So I want to recognize that that's a privilege, right? So I know how it was when I wasn't working in a health system. It's scary to just ask your doctor, I don't know, can you look it up?
We've got a couple questions. I don't know if you want to cover them now or later, guys.
Oh, I can't see the questions. Where are, yeah, what questions? Read them.
Yeah, if you click on, sometimes the chat box disappears when you're presenting. But so Barry Glass, just more of a comment on their experiences. The wheelchairs can take a tremendous amount of time to get them. So there seems to be a bit of a delay on getting that durable medical equipment. And then Anna asked, so this durable medical equipment should be free of charge. Most providers say they're not free of charge.
And that's where, go for it, Alyssa. What would you recommend our community partners do when a provider says, oh, those aren't covered?
I don't actually know the answer to that, Doc. I think it's important to have that conversation with the care coordination team. I mean, that because most of these items should be covered, and there are sometimes stipulations around who is eligible for which. So it may be a covered service for a particular individual and not covered for somebody else. So that nuance, though, is something that a care coordination team could help figure out.
A care coordination at each of the health plans. Alyssa, you knew the answer. Why are you trying to act like you don't know the answer? And I can't see the chats, Sean, because I'm scared to click anything on my Zoom.
It's okay.
I don't want to mess anything up.
That's fine. I'm getting a little bit more artful with it, so it's totally okay.
Going back to the comment about the wheelchair, you're right. It does take long. And here's again where I think I'll use the A word again, which I know sometimes is like considered a bad word, but this is where you call the health plan and say, look, what is taking so long? Because I won't mention the clinic because it doesn't matter. They created their own wheelchair program because of this reason. So when we create workarounds like that, we're not really, transforming the existing system and making it better. So I really want to encourage folks to, like, if you're having that issue, call the care coordination team and they'll say, oh, here's the reason why, or let me try to find that for you. So please, I get that it takes long, but it shouldn't take significantly long. And I don't even know what long is. I shouldn't be using vague words like that.
So I have a question, Talk. This is Deanna.
Yeah.
I see in the chat box that people are saying that there are definitely some challenges with this, right? The providers say it's not covered even when it is, or the client, patient needs to end up calling the carrier or the manufacturer and really get involved, which you're saying doesn't fix the system. And I'm wondering if anybody has experience calling the care coordinators, if you've done that, and if that's worked, or if then you like what that pathway looks like. Just a little bit of feedback. Are you open to that?
Oh, so happy you're back, Deanna.
The tough questions. Yeah, I'd like to know if people have worked with the care coordinators and if that has worked. So I know that's what we're saying for people to do. Are you doing it? How's it going? I'd love to see some feedback in the chat box.
I have a question.
Go for it, Liam.
Hey, I'm pretty much a loudmouth, so thank you, Deanna, for it's good to hear your voice and talk. I love the way you always answer questions the way the real world should be. But my role as a community partnership coordinator in this meeting is to be able to take this information back to our family coaches that deal with our OHP plan members, right? Our customers. And I'm constantly asking them, would you please, if you're calling OHA, Health Share, Trillium, I don't care who it is, and advocating on behalf of the customer for service, would you please let me know how it goes? And I will just tell you that sometimes, they're like, yeah, Leah, we're so tired of hearing about your darn flex funds. It's the greatest thing since sliced bread or service. They should be able to get these kinds of covered services. And then they report back to me, the family coaches, well, yes, I'm actually on the phone sometimes with my customer and asking, and the people answering the phone are like, what's care coordination team? What's this? What's that? And I will tell you, to me, that's a bit frustrating because there's some basic customer service premises that sometimes are not being met. And the other thing, I will give you a personal example of this. In my own community, outside of work, people know I work for ODHS down the street. And I recently, in the last month, had a neighbor whose son had an emergency dental issue. He had a wisdom tooth that was swollen and impacted. The poor man could hardly speak. I went over there. She asked if I could come over and talk with her after work to see if I could. She thought, oh, maybe Leah can help me and navigate this system. So I said, okay, bring his medical card. She said, yeah, he used to have a private insurance. He had a stroke and lost his job. So he's on Medicaid, the poor guy, right? He's worked all his life. He's now on Medicaid, right? And so I'm like, oh, geez, So I said, sure, let me look at it. She says, well, he keeps getting the runaround. He's in so much pain when he calls. He gets this runaround. It's like 5 different places. I'm like going, oh, I'll be able to articulate this for him. So we sit down at their kitchen table. I take the health share card, find out who his primary care physician, call them. There's a recording, not like, there's like, sorry, we're not in the office. There's some clinic here in Milwaukee. Like, there was no like follow up. There wasn't even dial 911 if it's an emergency. And he said, well, that was the primary care person I'm in charge of. And then I thought, well, that's weird. So I'll call this customer service number. I went to 5 different numbers. I got sent back, talked to one guy twice. This poor man sitting there with his jaw swollen. He's about ready to start crying. He's had a stroke before and he has high blood pressure. I'm thinking, oh my God, you know what? I finally got so frustrated with the health share experience and I'm just helping him. I sent him to the emergency room. That's the last thing I wanted to do, but he could potentially have a stroke because this man couldn't do anything for himself. So I'm just letting you know, that's my personal experience. And I feel sorry for people that don't have private health insurance. I'm just telling you, I'm just going to say it straight out. So unless there are improvements, these are what our customers face. That's the real feedback. I'm giving it to you from the field. I'm giving it to you straight. So that's what I will say.
And that's what I appreciate about you, Leah. Every time we're on this call, you're always going to give it to us straight. I'm like, tell me the person's name. Call me. What do we need to do? And it shouldn't be me, right? it needs to be the system as a whole. Like, what do we need to improve so that you and others aren't having that experience?
Right. And what I was saying in the comment was that, you know, these providers, I appreciate your role. I really do, talk, and being able to have this conversation. Who thinks I'm going to get drug into a neighbor conversation because I know I work at ODHS in my private time? I'm off work, and, you know, I just did it because it's my neighbor. I know these people. I talk to them. I know their family, you know, and of course I know our customers, our family coaches. That's my job. They pay me to do this, right? So I thought to myself, if this were me, I would have given up a long time ago. And the poor man, he never did get the service. He had to go to the emergency room. And you don't want to send people to the emergency room if you can avoid that. But it was ridiculous. It was a ridiculous experience. And that's not what I consider healthcare. It's kind of like just, you know, holding that in there. And I think if these providers, you guys are great. I mean, it's great you have the umbrella organization. I totally get it. But if all those providers, whether it's Care Oregon, and he was a Care Oregon client when I'm looking, right, on his card. And I'm just telling you that those providers, if they're taking money to articulate these services in the community, then they need to either train their staff to really, like, you know, put people in the right spot when they call. What's going on? Where? And then, like, problem solve that. That's all I'm going to say.
Thank you, Leah. I appreciate you providing that context. And I feel like this can, and I don't want to derail this too much from what we're talking about today, but I feel like this does tend to come up almost every collaborative, where I feel like the continued experience is that it's always on the client. And I don't really feel a lot of times like people experience being part of a supportive system, because oftentimes we're always like, you need to call, you need to do this, you need to do that. And I think it can be complex for a lot of our community members, especially in Lee's example too, if someone is currently in pain. It can be difficult. I mean, it comes up a lot in discussions too, I know in the past, of folks that are currently in mental health crises, and it's like, they're supposed to call themselves. Like, I think, I don't know how to improve these larger system issues, but as much as we can make these care coordination teams more accessible, I think would be awesome. But I'm going to go ahead and just keep us moving forward, talk to, just to make sure that we have time, and we have time for Rebecca as well. So Chuck, if you had more to go over, it's awesome. Thank you, Leah.
Yes, thank you, Leah. I do have more. We didn't even get into HRS yet, health-related services. But Leah, your situation is not the only, you know, we hear of these, and we have requirements at the OHA level, right? Alyssa can speak to that maybe at another meeting, but about what we are responsible for in terms of our contract. But these stories are helpful, and I'll call you, Leah.
I think it would also be helpful to know what maybe at a future meeting, but just to keep in mind, we don't need to discuss it right now, but the concept of making sure that your care coordination team is aware that community partners are being asked to really rely on them to troubleshoot these issues, to do things like connect a client and keep them out of the emergency room. So if we can just make sure that they know that that's the message that's going out to community partners, so when they get a call, they can expect that level of expectation. I think that could be a piece of it. If it's not already, like, maybe reiterating that to them, unless you do that all the time. But anyway.
Definitely. And then I'll say, you know, at another collaborative meeting, here's what came up again. What are we doing about it? And
thank you.
Holding me accountable, I will come back to the next collaborative and report back on what steps we are looking at. Right? This is a much bigger issue. Sorry, Sean, I know you're like,
sorry, Sean, I know you want to move on. So yes.
Okay, sorry. Okay, and I'm adding lice kits here. I know it's not durable medical equipment, but it's just one of the medications that I see a lot of community members spend their money on. And again, this is what's covered under Medicaid. So now that you know that these are some of the items that are covered, then we go into health-related services. These are, and again, I'll use very plain English, are items that are not covered under Medicaid and that promote social determinants of health, health equity, right? That's a very big word, social determinants of health, but it's really, what are the things that are impacting someone's life? Their health, their overall well-being, right? When we think of social determinants of health, we're thinking neighborhoods, immigration status, right? Unemployment, all of those things. So I like to think that health-related services, sky's the limit if you, the provider or the care team, can really describe how this item could improve their health. It's very vague. It is not a perfect system. Alyssa knows I go on and on about how broken this system is, the health-related services. And then what makes it even more complicated, and others have heard me say this before, we are in a traditional white healthcare system. It's very billing focused, it's very Western focused, it's very 15 minutes, right? It's very like, is this covered or not? So it's very hard to think social determinants of health when we're in that kind of system. The reason why I say that is, here's the other caveat to health-related services. It needs to come from a provider. I appreciate this service. Again, it's not a benefit, it's a service. And there's areas that we can improve. And we are actually working to improve that. And I'm really excited that Alyssa is here so she can speak a little bit more to that. But I'm just going to show some pictures. Again, for those who've seen this 8 million times, indulge me like this is the first time, right? Gym memberships, housing, IDs, that famous air conditioner, medical ID bracelets, community warehouse, right? If you move someone into their home and they don't have the funds to get a bed, a dining table, or those basic needs, how are they going to be healthy, right? So think of all the things that are outside what Medicaid covers. You see the putty there, right? A kiddo. These are just some of the things that I see often when I was sitting on the health-related services review committee at Care Oregon when I was working there. A kiddo who needs a putty to help stay, oh my God, what's the word? Not relaxed. What is it, Stacy?
Stimulate.
Focused, right? In
Stimulation.
school.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a provider submitted a request for this. And I've used this example before. The mother needed like a whole year's worth as opposed to like buying it every month because they're really expensive. So the health plan approved $800 worth of putty for the whole year, right? Because again, it supports the client's health. So I like to use story. And one last story is a young adult who has anger management challenges, right? And the thing that really helps is a punching bag. So the provider requested a punching bag to support the young adult's mental health, right? So thinking outside, and again, it requires a provider. So Alyssa, I'd like to invite you to speak to health-related services in a different way, because I know it's really helpful to hear it in different communication styles. And then if we can also add the air conditioner during this heat, that would be great too.
Yeah, thanks, Talk. So I think just to build a little bit on what Talk was describing about our efforts to increase access to health-related services, we have been working at HealthShare on a process where it would be easier for community-based partners to apply for health-related services for the individuals that they're working with. As Talk described, it's not super straightforward, and I wish that we'd been able to make quicker progress on that than we have, but we've continued partnering with one of our community-based partner providers to increase that access to individuals who may be more connected to a community-based organization than to a healthcare system. And so that we felt like that was, as part of our work to lead with race and to be a more equitable organization, we felt like it was a really important step for us to reach out to community and find ways to increase access through different doors other than just that health system door. When members are of it, they should have access to these members regardless of their level of engagement with the quote unquote traditional healthcare system. So that's been really powerful work that we've had underway. And then regarding the air conditioning example, we have been working to make sure that, especially during these days like today, when it's very hot out, that our members have access to air conditioning and other supplies needed to stay healthy during these increasingly frequent climate events. So we have it's the same process at this point where a member can call their care coordination team to get access to air conditioning. I think one important caveat to that is that we are at the whim of suppliers and providers to the same extent that you all are. If we were all to go onto Amazon or head over to Costco to try and get an air conditioner and they're out, like our plans have those same issues. And so we're not able to commit to like a 24-hour turnaround or anything close to that. But I think as individuals are identified as being vulnerable to heat-related events, making sure that we have an opportunity to work with them prior to those types of events so that we can make sure that they're set up for when that might happen again. Is there anything else, Talk, you wanted me to cover?
Are folks able to see this slide? Yeah, so I can send this to you, Sean. You can send it out to the group, or folks can just go onto the HealthShare website. That's pretty much it for us. Other comments, questions? Again, I will be coming back to the next OHA collaborative. Hold me to that, Deanna and Sean. Give you an update on what conversations have we had with our health plan partners, care coordination.
The only thing that I had, because I think, could you please send this document? Yeah, absolutely. We'll make sure that you guys have access to that document. Yeah. So Talk, the presentation that you shared today too, because I'll be honest, even some of the stuff that I know I've gone over this a billion times, but I think sometimes my brain doesn't really fully grasp health-related services, and so sometimes I forget to even think, oh wow, that could be a health-related service. So it's really good to kind of have more of the concept of like, if you can make it essentially the case that it will improve their health, and it's not something that's covered, say, under medical equipment or other, versus just have that conversation and start that conversation. Because why not ask? Because from what I can see, you're most likely, if there's funds, going to help provide that if it really is something that's going to really support the community member. The only thing I was going to say, because Alyssa, and I hope when Rebecca, I know you're not necessarily speaking on behalf of all Trillium folks as well, because I know you're here just to talk about the health-related services, but as much as I'm trying to really engage and bring community partners in connection with CCOs and tightening that partnership, if you guys are developing a pathway for community partners to initiate that health-related task or that health-related service, are you inviting community partners to be a part of that conversation and a part of that process to see what might work better for them? Sorry, that's a big question too.
Yes, absolutely, Sean. Thanks for raising that. As we've been rolling out this process we started small with one community-based organization, knowing that we were given just the complexity of the program and the barriers that we as the CCO have regarding the OHA requirements and the CMS requirements on OHA. We did start small, but we've been in ongoing conversations with that partner about how we can improve the process and streamline it for them. Our goal is to make this an easier process to the extent that we can, right? I mean, as Talk describes, like if I were designing this program, I would probably not design it exactly as it is, but given what we have and the potential benefit that it can bring to our members, we've been working really closely with that team and with community health workers in order to expand that access and to gather that feedback and use it. We have a request form as an example, and their feedback was, particular fields like this one's confusing. Let's make sure that we clarify that. What if we have, what if your drop-down menu doesn't include all of the options that we consider, like those types of questions. We've been working really closely in partnership with that particular provider. And then as we expand beyond that, once we've tightened it up a little bit so it's ready for prime time, then we'll be continually seeking feedback from those partners as we roll it out.
The only thing, if I may, Alyssa, add is like they have been brutally honest with us, like raw, with stories, and it's really been a pretty remarkable experience. I will give it to the community health workers with this organization. Yeah, I just needed to name that. And then I see a question here from Mitzi. Did I pronounce that right? Mitzi Sugar. The answer to your question, do they need to ask their doctor to put in a request, or can we as a community partner help them call the care coordination team? I would say both. Because, we have a lot of people who leave jobs and go to other jobs, right? I mean, that's just the cycle of life, right? And not everybody knows about health-related services. While we try to do our part in educating our provider network, it would be also helpful to have community members do the same. You know, we're all in this together, right? Sometimes, not all the time. And the care coordination team can also be a critical piece. They can call the provider and say, oh, you didn't know about this? Well, here's what health-related services is. Can we work with your care team at the clinic to request this item? So yeah, call that care coordination team. And if you're not getting sufficient response, all of you have my email, I believe, maybe, kind of, sort of. I don't want to be that person, and I can be if there are things that you're just not getting responses to, like simple things that Leah was saying, like a call back, or, you know, those types of things. And also, all the customer service conversations are recorded. So in other situations where I've had to help community members address certain issues, they actually pull the recording and we see and hear all of it. I don't know if that was helpful.
Thank you, Talk. I know that it can be difficult a little bit with HealthShare because each of your health plan has its own care coordination team. For folks, are you able to just, I know I've provided it before, but are you guys able to drop the care coordination phone numbers into the chat box, or are you not comfortable with that? If that's totally okay, if not. Is it okay? Okay, that would be fantastic, because I think it's helpful for team partners to have those numbers at quick access, because I know it's just like when that comes up, you're like, oh, we talked about this, what was I supposed to do? So just as for folks as a reminder, there are different care coordination phone numbers for the different health plans within HealthShare. So, and just to make sure to keep us, I know we're a little bit behind, but I really love the conversation, and I always prefer us to have these kinds of conversations versus rushing through it. So thank you, Taka, Alyssa, and Stacy. I appreciate you guys and always your perspective. So thank you for providing it and being willing to take folks' hard questions. All right.
Sorry, Rebecca, I owe you 5 minutes.
All right, I'll go ahead and pass things off to Rebecca from who's here to speak with Trillium. Thanks so much, Rebecca.
Oh, it's not a problem. I'm enjoying the conversation. Sean, do you have the slide deck, or do you want me to try to share it?
Oh, you know what? I made you a host. So if you if you want to, you should be able to share it yourself as well.
Perfect. Okay, is it visible?
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, hang on here. I just need to like adjust you guys so I can see everything. So brief introduction. I go by Becky. My name is Becky Smith, and I'm the non-clinical. I am a nurse, but I'm a non-clinical supervisor at Trillium Medicaid team, and I do manage the intensive care coordination team. And I would be happy, just as a quick side note, if anybody has care coordination needs, concerns, feedback for my team, I'm happy to take any emails or calls. My team would love to work with community partners and advocate with providers and get everybody on a team on the same page to help whatever our membership needs. So please feel free to reach out to me. But I'm here today to present on our health-related services, or you'll probably hear me refer to it as flex funds going forward. A lot of this, here we go, is the same as Talk has already explained. What is a health-related service? It is health-related and equity-related, but it's non-medical in nature, if it helps kind of separate that piece out. Our flex funds or health-related services are what they kind of refer to as the payer of the last resort. So if we can't get Medicaid to cover it, or if we can't connect somebody with a community partner or some kind of other resource, then we want to step in and make sure that they have what they need for, for their ongoing health and wellness. Flex services have to be for an individual member. So going forward, that just applies to the single member that's covered. And like it's already been said, it can't be available as another benefit, like we talked about DME. Types of flex service. A lot of things that we've used, meal delivery for people, motel vouchers, getting a weight scale. If the doctor tells you, you know, you need to weigh yourself every single day, and you're like, where am I going to come up with that $20? You know, things just like that just make things. These are air purifiers. We're right back into fire season. Puts a lot of our members at risk with the poor air quality. Vouchers, repairs. We recently had a member who's long time ago, church had built her a wheelchair ramp. Well, the weather had taken care of wheelchair ramp, things like that, that we can sort of help members get connected to in their homes and keep their independence. Who's making their requests for flex forms? Any part of the member's primary care team, whether it's their provider, maybe an advocate that they're working with, a caregiver. You know, the members themselves call in and say, I've tried everywhere to get X, can someone help me? We will connect them either with my team or with a member connection or CHW to help them get forms filled out and do the applications. Several ways to submit a request. You know, if you're a provider, you can get on our website, the provider portal, and get a request form and send those in either by email or fax. Or if members call in, they can simply call into our customer service and ask for case management, member connections, any kind of care coordination, you know, whatever buzzwords they can throw out, and they'll get them connected to us. To help with whatever their request is, and then we can do the form online for them or with them over the phone or however you know, best gets them going. The flex forms are reviewed by a small panel of people here to determine, you know, the health benefits and you know, the amount of the funds. Have we exhausted every other resource? So it's reviewed by a panel of people. But for urgent requests, we try to get them done in 48 hours, but 2 to 5 business days is probably the reality, and 10 to 14 business days on, you know, a non-urgent request. Just our process, and we've kind of briefly touched on it, but you know, obviously we check for eligibility of members, but we're also looking for, you know, what are to spell out what are the health quality benefits, and you know, how is this going to help the individual member stay healthy, stay at their most independent level of living? You know, will it keep them out of the emergency room? Things like that. How are we promoting their health and wellness? And then when a flex fund is approved, the member is notified right away. Usually one of our NCRs or CHWs will call them and then help initiate the process of whatever needs to be done as far as purchasing or purchase order, or, you know, coordinate the service. If for some reason the flex fund request is not approved, we do send a letter in writing, and we also, you know, notify members of their rights to file a grievance or have it re-looked at if maybe something else has come up or changed, or if they feel the process wasn't carried out in their best interest. So that's kind of all of our flex funds in a nutshell. It's very similar to, you know, the health services that other CCOs are using, but I'm totally open to any questions. If anyone has questions for me in regards to our process or how we do with Trillium. And this is my first meeting. I'm here for someone who's on vacation, but just in case people don't know, Trillium does cover tri-counties. We're in Lane County, Western Douglas County, just to let you know our service area, if people aren't familiar with that.
Hi, I do have a question. My name is Sylvia Suna. I'm an OHP assessor at Outside in East. And this is my very first meeting that I ever attend, which I was really grateful for. And I guess I did not know about these services, the flex services that were offered through Trillium and things like that. So basically what I'm understanding is, sorry, I'm just trying to make sure that I'm understanding this right. Like I said, it's my very first. I'm mostly like just applying for the insurances and that's it. Like I don't go anything beyond that, which I'm super excited for this meeting again, like I said. So we could, like our provider or anybody from this clinic here in the medical clinic, so we could put in a request for these type of services for our patients if they need it, and the insurance will cover this stuff. Is that what you're?
It's not, I think the word coverage is where it gets kind of sticky. It's not a covered service like medications or a wheelchair or something like that. It's actually something that would fall outside of what's covered, but something that definitely adds to someone's health and well-being. You know, they use the example of an air conditioner, which is coming a lot, in air purifiers now. You know, these are not necessarily a covered benefit, but there are members who are in much more high-risk situations where you have, you know, you have asthma or CHF or a respiratory illness, and you live, you know, in Lane County, say you live like in Oak Ridge, where they're very close to fire right now. An air purifier or an air conditioner means the difference between being able to stay in your home safely or being in an emergency room or a long, you know, potentially a longer hospital stay, for example. So would it be considered a covered benefit? No, but if a member who was in a high-risk situation said, I need this air conditioner so I don't have to go to the emergency room every day and be put on oxygen or whatever their situation is, you know, that's something that we would seriously look at as far as, you know, keeping them well and independent in their home for just the cost of an air conditioner. But it's not a guarantee, it's not a covered benefit per se.
It's just an extra way. I think it's an extra way to pay for things that aren't covered on a case-by-case basis, like you said.
Yes.
Got it. Thank you so much. But like I said, this information is very helpful, as I didn't really know I guess I would say the back part of like Trillium and OHP, but this is very helpful. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your question, and we are so happy to have you here. And I think one other thing I was going to say, Becky, is folks did ask for your contact information if you're willing to share that in the chat box, and I can also have that in our follow-up email as well.
Sure, and when I stop sharing my screen, I think this chat box should pop back up for me, right?
Perfect. Awesome. Yes, it should. It always kind of like reorganizes itself, which always is a little alarming for me.
All right, I'll send it back to you, Sean.
Perfect. And then, Becky, I think we did have one more question here. It says, we're able to, let's see. Oh, someone was asking if there's ability to get rent help from Care Oregon. Do you have any way for us to get that service from Trillium? So I'm not sure if I was not aware that Care Oregon was doing rent assistance. So is that true, Doc? Care Oregon doing rental assistance?
Sorry, I'm like, my mouse won't move to the mute.
Yep.
Again, rental assistance could also potentially be a part of the health related services.
Okay. Wow.
Right. Yeah, going back to what Becky was saying, like, it's not a benefit, it's a service, like a program essentially inside the health system that needs to be reviewed and these different criterias.
Okay. Awesome.
But yes, rent could be one of them. Application to housing, right?
Mhm. Fantastic. Okay, that's again, I'm still expanding the concept, so this is great. In Becky, I would assume the same would be for Trillium, that someone would present the need and come from a provider or through the care coordination team, but that would be a potential as well for Trillium.
Yes, we would do both things. Like we would try to either connect them with a community organization or work in tangent. And if, funds are being kind of exhausted readily, that we would be able to step in with an application. And sometimes we've, got people some temporary hotel stays while they wait to get into a place, or, each situation really is looked at as its individual situation, but it would be something that not off the table. I would say submit the application.
Fantastic. So Sherry, I hope that helps. It does sound like it's equally weighed in the same sense for both. And that's a helpful thing for us to remind ourselves, is that although we have HealthShare and we have Trillium, we're all supposed to get, we want to get the same support from both of the CCOs. So, if you are getting something covered for one over another, just make sure that you remember that these things are equally looked at and equally supported. Again, it really comes down to that case by case basis for the individual as well on what that need is. And that's something too that we can talk about as well, guys, is we do have another resource specifically for rental assistance as well that's coming up in our slides. And I know folks have been asking me about that as well. So there are other programs too. So as much as we can help connect folks to those, that's great. Aftercare. We had a really great question from Ada asking about aftercare. And this is probably going to be the last one we take, guys, before we move into our cloud. Just make sure we have enough time. It says, in instances where an individual does not have a friend or family member to assist with home aftercare, are there opportunities through these programs to get some form of visit care or support? That could be for Becky or talk, whoever is able to answer that one.
I'm not sure what the specific situation would be as far as aftercare. I mean, are we talking about like post-hospital care or what that might be? I guess we would look at what resources would be available first, as far as like a home health. Is it a physical situation or just emotional supports, or cooking a meal? What that situation is, we have paid for like meal delivery in situations. We've put people in motels after hospital stays so that they do have a place to transition to, and not necessarily back to an unsafe living situation or a homeless situation.
It's fantastic.
So again, I think it comes back to what the specific need is for that member.
And to add to that, again, I would say contact the care coordination team. And what will happen is, again, they have access to the records, right? The medical records, and they can, I've used this term before, they're like your backup dancers inside the health plan. So they can say, here are these other options. Have you tried this? Could we coordinate this? So I would say that is like the first stop, if not customer service, but really that care coordination team.
Thank you, guys. Well, I think that's a perfect thing for us to end on. And again, similar to the support that us as Rox, that Deanna and I and Liliana provide support to, we want to make sure that the community members that you're serving, if you are running into these barriers, that these things get to the right folks, and that we can get these things resolved and help to smooth these systems over. So when, as Talk and Becky have mentioned earlier, it's like we want to know when folks are running into these barriers and these issues and not accessing, but the needs that they have are not necessarily maybe being met. But flex funds and health related services, at least for me, it sounds a lot more extensive than I really understood personally before the training today. I know we've talked about it before, but thank you guys again for speaking to that. And it really sounds like just ask. is the important thing. And I know when I was an application assister, it a lot of times is encouraging that community member to take that step and to make sure that they make that ask. And as much as you can support them in that process is fantastic. And hopefully in the future, we'll have even better processes with what HealthShare's talking about, their ability for community partners to be able to submit those requests. So as much as we can connect folks to services, I say we just ask, because if they say no, they say no. And then we can find other routes and we can work together to make sure those needs are met for folks. So again, thank you guys so much for all of your work and the presentations today.